This problem asks us to sketch the graph of the function y equals f of x using the properties a through f. When we look at property a, it tells us that the limit as it approaches negative infinity will meet at y equals 0. So when we put this in a graph, all the values that are going to negative infinity are going to be right here, and all the values, all the x values that are approaching positive infinity are going to be right over here. And what this one tells us basically means that any value that is going towards negative infinity will never cross y equals 0, so it'll go alongside of it like that. And this one tells us that the limit as it approaches positive infinity is going to go to negative infinity, which means that any values, whether here, here, are going to go downwards. They're going to curve down to negative infinity. And we're going to need to remember these properties for other properties when we're graphing. The next property tells us that as the limit approaches negative 4 from the left, it's going to be at y equals 4. This one tells us that as the limit goes to negative 4 from the right, it's going to reach y equals 1, and this one specifically states that f of negative 4 equals 1. Because these two have the same answer, when we point this point out, we're going to draw it with a closed circle, but this one, since it's not specifically pointed out, we're going to draw it with an open circle. So we're going to find negative 4. And for this one, we're going to go like that. And then for this one, we're going to go like that. And because this approaches from the left side, which means that it goes towards negative infinity, that's what we're going to draw. We're going to draw it like this, and we're not going to cross the y equals 0. For this one, it tells us it's coming from the right. And as it's going to the positive numbers, we're going to want to go downwards to negative infinity. That's so. But we're going to leave the limit here uncompleted because we have to go through the rest of the properties to determine where it's going to go down, if that makes sense. Okay. So property C tells us that if the limit approaches 3, it's going to be at y equals 0, and then it confirms here that it's going to be at 0, so we're going to draw this point out with a closed circle. We're going to draw it right over here. We have x equals 3, and we can have y equals. And since it doesn't specify if it's coming from the left or the right, we're going to have to assume that this is from both the left and the right. So we're going to have uncompleted limits because we need the rest of the properties before we complete this coming from both sides. Property D tells us that as the limit approaches y, it goes to negative infinity. Now, because it specifies that it goes towards a specific infinity, we're going to assume. Now, this indicates that it's going to be a vertical asymptote, which means that no other limits are going to be able to cross this boundary. This helps us with property B because it lets us know that it's going to keep going down, but it'll never reach y equals 1, x equals 1. So it's going to go down like this. And then for properties E, it tells us that as the limit approaches negative 1, it's going to go to y equals 0, and then it specifies that it's going to go to 3, which means we're going to have two different circles, and only one of them is going to have a limit. So it's going to be open, and this is going to be closed. We're going to find the closed one first, and it's just going to be right over here. And then we're going to find the open one, which is going to be right over here. But because this one also has a limit, it would be much easier for us to combine both the limit for B and limit for E. So we're going to combine these limits that it goes through, and then it just goes downward into negative infinity. And this one doesn't have a limit, so we're not going to put a limit on it. And then we have f of 0 equals -1. This is going to put 1 right over here, which means we're going to have to redraw this so that it goes through it, because it's much simpler to have those three limits combined into one limit slash line. And then for property C, we know that this limit is going to go to the positive infinity, so it's going to go down to -infinity. And this one is going to be going to the right, or this one's coming from the left. So this one's also going to be going down over here because it can't go past y equals, because this one can't go past y equals 0. It can only, the only other way it can really go is going down. So we're going to draw that out real quick. And this is what your graph should look like, considering all of those. So you might want to, so starting out, plot the points out and then combine and work and incorporate every property into every property so you can get the limits.